I'm Gwendolyn Lindsay Cooley, the founder of Taimet, an artificial intelligence merger evaluation system that we created after I spent 20 years doing antitrust enforcement efforts for the state of Wisconsin. In that time, I was also the chair of the Antitrust Task Force for the state attorneys general. And I saw that there was a real need for consistency and transparency in antitrust enforcement efforts. It was tremendously difficult to go from investigating a dairy merger to investigating a mining merger, just because you don't have that sense of what are the overlapping markets, what are the vertical considerations. And so to get up to speed quickly, it took 10 to 20 hours to do that. So we created Taimet, which does that in 10 to 25 minutes. And it's for all folks in the merger chain, from the merging parties themselves to enforcers to investors who are more interested in seeing what a merger transaction is going to do to the companies. So let's take a look. Taimet is designed to be simple on purpose. All you do is enter the two companies' names. So, for example, what if Ford bought Tesla? This does two things. One, it helps ensure that your compliance people are happy because you don't have to upload any documents, and so greatly simplifies that process, but also ensures that no one can game the Taimet scoring system and ensures that consistency across users. So here we have an analysis, and the first thing you see is Taimet's proprietary risk assessment. It's a score that is tied to real-world outcomes and not probabilities. So these lowest ranges, the 1 through 25, that's a candidate for early termination. Slightly above that, potential pull and refile, then a second request in this band. This band is structural or behavioral remedies. And when things are scoring lower in the band, that means it's more likely to have a negotiated outcome. Higher in this band would be more likely to be in full litigation. The next step up is trial on the merits. And then that final band is possible adverse decision against the merging parties. This high-level analysis is designed so that you can look at it while you're on the phone with a client. So we talk about the scores based on the fact that there's significant market overlap and vertical analysis issues, as well as a structural presumption in Guideline 1 and Guideline 3, 5, and 6. So there's a lot of information that's just at this top level for you to look at a glance. So, of course, this high-level overview is supported by a more detailed analysis, which you can see here. This provides you some more information about which horizontal overlaps it's seeing, the vertical links, and you can find out more information in this sidebar by clicking on these sections, and that will show you the greater in-depth analysis for each, both horizontal and vertical analysis. And this is really dynamic. It varies for each merger transaction about what is most impactful. Here, certainly, there is going to be more union presence, and that may have an impact on the transaction. There will be what are called baby HSR filings in both Washington and Colorado that would be required. And so obviously that's going to have a little bit more impact on this. And it goes through why it thinks the possible procedural outcome is supporting this 75 score. So let's take a look at the market overlap analysis. So one of the most difficult things to do when you're analyzing a merger is to look at where the market overlaps are. And so Taimet uses expert level reasoning in order to figure that out the way that I figure it out as an attorney, using HHIs, using brown shoe factors to really figure out what are the most important markets. So we just have one example here, right? We're looking at Ford and Tesla. We see the overlaps in battery electric passenger cars. And we want to estimate what the market shares are in that specific market. And you can see here it's got estimated market shares for Tesla, including all of the models that it sells, and estimated market shares for Ford and the models it sells. All of this information is then backed up with details so that you, as the user, can check and make sure that you agree with this analysis. You can see that this is so much more sophisticated that if you've ever tried to run a market analysis on a chat GPT or something similar, there's really some significant ability here behind the scenes. We're cross-checking each of these using LLMs against each other, competing LLMs against each other, to really make sure that we've got a good, fulsome analysis to help estimate HHIs in this case, and really to take a good look at what the markets are. So one of the hardest but most important pieces of antitrust merger analysis is doing vertical analysis. And Taimet does a comprehensive job of vertical merger analysis. You can see here, we've got a summary of the vertical impacts of a transaction, right? Really looking at, are there related markets that are at stake here? In this particular one, here's a chart of all the potential related markets where there are vertical interactions between the two companies. You can also see estimated foreclosure risk. That really has been the focus of the antitrust enforcement agencies in the last few years, really seeing, are the parties able to foreclose competitors in a vertical merger? Also look at access to competitively sensitive information. That has been a real pressure point, certainly with companies, and that access to competitively sensitive information can also be informative for what kinds of divestitures may be possible. And lastly, of course, because of Alcoa, we have to have dual entry concerns. And so there is a full analysis of that here. You can't do merger analysis without looking to see which merger guidelines would apply. And Taimet does that. It uses the latest merger guidelines and analyzes them comprehensively to look here. You've got the structural presumption flagged in guideline 1, as well as guidelines 3, 5, 6, and 9. It's really looking in great detail at each specific piece of these guidelines. And that's informed based on my years of enforcement experience enforcing these guidelines, but also my involvement in drafting comments on them. But you can't talk about enforcing guidelines and enforcing antitrust laws unless you talk about state AG analysis. And obviously that's near and dear to my heart, but it is not as near and dear to the market's heart. And I think that the market does not price in state AG risk enough. But if you want to really understand state AG risk, Taimet has that for you. It includes a lot of my insights into the kinds of cases that state AGs bring. Obviously, this is a hypothetical case, so we don't know which state AGs would be involved in it, but it knows the kinds of things to look for to see if, in fact, state AGs will be involved. You can see some of those here, like, for example, the baby HSR statutes that would really impact which states are notified about a transaction. So these specific types of analysis, the market overlaps, the vertical summary, the merger guideline analysis, and the state AG analysis are all elements of what makes Taimet unique and so much more valuable than something like just using some bare bones prompts in ChatGPT or Gemini. Taimet gives you attorney quality antitrust analysis in minutes. It helps you move faster without lowering rigor and gives you an edge in understanding antitrust outcomes before others do. If you have more questions or you want to see more details about Taimet, or if you want to sign up to see our podcast, the Taimet Merger Review, you can go to our website at taimet.com, and that's TAIMET.com to get more information. Thank you so much for watching.